Hi, welcome to Theology Matters, episode 3. Yeah. Today's topic, truth. What is truth? And does it matter? So, what's the working definition we'll start with? From correspondence theory, states truth is that which corresponds to reality. And that is to say, truth is telling it like it is. Right? Truth is what you say it is. It's not determined by you, but determined by reality. So you're responding to what something is. So this is how it would look like. If you have an event A, right? And you have observer 1 and observer 2, 3, 4, or 5. Each of these observers looking at event A will have a different perspective at this reality. So then the question arises, how do you define reality? Why does it matter how we define reality if everybody can own their own perspective? Well, because when we make or when we discuss truth claims, what we're saying is that the truth claim that we're making about an event is binding on all people at all times, in all places, for it to matter. Because if it was subjective to the person, it wouldn't matter. An example, or the best examples that are easy to grasp, will be from empirical studies. An empirical study would be anything to do with measurements, like measuring the height of this pen, measuring my height, or if I held my guitar and played this note and told you this is C, you would pick up another guitar that is tuned to standard tuning and actually compare that note to that to tell that I'm telling the truth. So empirical methods attack the answer the question of truth from that dimension of getting something and physically measuring it out. And then once we've measured, then we can say something about it. So another example would be gravity, right? We know everywhere there's gravity, things tend to go towards the center of whatever that body is. So for Earth, everything falls towards the center of the Earth, and that's how gravity works on Earth. And it is true in Japan, it's true in Zambia, it's true in England, it's true in South America, it's true everywhere on Earth. If you're on Earth, you fall towards the center of gravity if you're not accelerating away from gravity. So that's true from an empirical position. So as I presented the problem earlier, if you have a point, an event, and different observers of the same point, how would you define reality? So the Christian answer to this problem of perspective is we modify the definition that I gave at the beginning, and that is truth is what corresponds to reality, changing it to truth is what corresponds to reality as perceived by God, right? So God becomes the determining standard, determining factor of how to interpret this event, whatever this event is, whatever this problem is. Why? Because God has certain attributes that are very important at determining truth, and one of them is knowledge. So when we talk about God with respect to knowledge, we're saying God has perfect knowledge. So he actually knows exactly what's happening. He knows reality as is, as it is, more than any person. And that is why when we define truth, it has to be bonded or defined with God as the determining function of what truth is. It has to be perceived, it has to be what God perceives it, and not what man perceives it to be. Because man obviously does not have perfect knowledge. We can see this exemplified in court trials. We start multiplying number of witnesses to increase the chances of concluding a just verdict, right? So we collect evidence and lay it upon evidence to come to that conclusion, to increase confidence in our conclusions. But we still lack that certainty, or certainty, whichever way you choose to pronounce that. So that's the idea about truth, and that's how we would defend it or present it. What attributes are we looking for in truth? One, consistency. Right? We want a consistent story. Can it be reproduced? And this we see in science or empirical investigations, physical sciences. We do an experiment, okay, we drop it, we drop another thing, we drop another thing, and then once we see that consistent in result, we can say our hypothesis about something is actually true. So that's one character of truth, it's consistent, it's repeatable, or there's a sameness about it. Two, it's coherent. So the second one is coherency or coherent. Truth is coherent. Use that coherency. There's a coherency about truth, and that is to say, the best analogy would be a chain, right? There's a link from one explanation to the next, and so forth. They agree. There's an agreement. Anyway, there's an agreement in these things that you would say coherency sort of puts across when you're talking about truth. So the sameness, agreement between certain phenomena or facts, and then three, it's experiential relevance. Now, what does this mean? Experiential relevance is from the first two, your conclusion has a direct relationship to a practicality. And that is to say, you can draw a practical relevance to how you deal with something in real life. So we'll stick to empirical examples because they capture this idea well. And one of them is the integrals we used to learn in mathematics, right? Oh, and blah, 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 blah. You would have your equation in here. Oh, simple 1 plus 1, 2 plus 4. Is that all these ideas that we have in abstract form about mathematics help us build cars. Anything, even guitars, like the guitar I'm playing, is all built on these abstract ideas. So this, cars, rockets, guns, or speedboats and trains are what you call experiential relevance, which are tied back to a certain idea or thought that is coherent and is consistent. And if these three are all ticked, your conclusion about that truth claim also will be bound for all time, in all places, to all people in any language. So 1 plus 1 is true in Bemba, 1 plus 1 is true in Japanese, Chinese, Swahili, or Zulu. It is true in every human language. So truth has that force to not be private. And that's the point of this episode. The truth cannot be privatized. It cannot be an opinion.